All right, everyone. So I am redoing my video for Project 2. For some reason, it did not work out correctly. The file was not right. So this is just to kind of walk you through a general guideline of what to do for the project in terms of setting up your template correctly. I will not be answering all of the questions. I will definitely be leaving that up to you, but you will also need to look up the career that you're going for based on the formula or the link that we give you in the directions. So you need to have your directions open, which is in module 5. So it's your assignment guide, and you'll need your template, okay? So both of those are downloadable within the directions if you want a downloaded copy. Things that you should not change, you should never change the high school graduates median annual income or the Ford Bronco Raptor price. Everybody should be using those two pieces of information in their comparisons. So things that you're allowed to type in that are not formulas are your name. So I'm just going to put Miss M for mine. We'll be looking up a career, and it's supposed to be a career that's actually what you're going for. So the closest thing you can find in that website to the career that you're going for. And then you'll be getting the median salary for that career. So you can physically type those in. There's not really a formula for those. You can manually type them into Excel. The only other two cells, if you read this, that you're allowed to manually type something in is the 22B and 22C, because they will be based off of a guess and check scenario in row 21, okay? So let's look at what, there's a lot of type here. I do highly recommend you read it all, but it can bog you down a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and skip down to where we start, number 1. To be able to do this, I have to have a salary for my own career. So I'm going to go off to this website, and I am a teacher. So I'm going to look for, so you'll be looking for whatever job you do. So I clicked on education. You can also search. So I can search college professor and see if there's a salary for that. So there wasn't specifically for that one. So let's see. It says high school teachers, post-secondary teachers. So that is someone who works in usually above high school. So notice that is the median salary they say for that. Now, I don't have a PhD. So most of these people have PhDs. So that's why it probably would say like you have to have a PhD to go for this position, but we're just going to use this for the example. So post-secondary teacher, that's the closest I could find to what I do. So you're going to try to find something close to what you're wanting to go to college for. What are you doing? And then I'm going to put in 80,840. And notice it puts it in dollar form for me because it's recognizing that's formatted. And then let's go back to the project. Okay, so those are manually typed in now. Now, there is a lot of information on how to complete these. So I'm going to just walk you through kind of the basics. Please read this as you need to, but it's very basic to set up this Excel document. The annual salary is just the salary you found online there. So equals for the high schooler, that was $36,500. So equals that. We want it to be connected as a formula though. Okay, so that's why we did equals and clicked the cell. Equals my salary that I found on the website. Then we have these two things over here. We're wanting an absolute change and a relative change. Remember, absolute change is new minus old. Relative change is your absolute change, which is new minus old, divided by the old. Okay, so those are two formulas. We had that listed in the reminders of formulas you might need for Excel. So this is already, if you're using Excel, this is already formatted in percentages for relative change. So you shouldn't need to change anything for that. If you end up having to use Google Sheets, you'll want to make sure your relative change represents a percent. So type it in first, see if it gives you a percentage. If not, you may have to adjust that. So absolute change, again, we want formulas. It's equals new, which would be the degree I got after having a high school degree, essentially, minus old, someone who doesn't have the upper level degrees. So that's the absolute change for the annual salary. The relative change would be equals my absolute change divided by the old. The old would be the high school graduate. We are going from high school graduate to college graduate. We're comparing from our high school people to people who have their degrees. Okay, so we click that and hit enter. Notice that's 121% increase in pay for the year. To get your monthly salary, it's exactly what you would think. You would say equals annual salary divided by 12. Do the same thing for me. Equals annual salary divided by 12. Okay. Absolute change is the same, but it's for monthly now. So new minus old. And then relative change is equal to the absolute change divided by the old. Okay, notice it's the same percentage. Same salaries, we're just doing a yearly comparison versus a month-to-month comparison. Why we needed that, though, is for question 2, we're going to be talking about mortgages, and then question 3, we're going to be talking about retirement. Both of those are based off of your monthly salary because you pay, remember we talked about in class, you pay a certain percent of your monthly salary goes to your mortgage, a certain percent of your monthly salary should go to your retirement each month. So there's a lot. And so like you will before, and I'm skipping over this part. You guys we're far enough in this class that you should be able to read 4 questions and interpret how to write a good sentence that uses the values. There's even an example at the very beginning of the project of what a good comparative statement is. Okay. So you will be responsible for writing your sentences. Make sure you're using complete sentences with capitalization and correct punctuation. Okay. I don't want to have to grade things that are not written in clear, concise English sentences. Okay. So going to question 2, because again, I just want to make sure we know how to set everything up. We need 22, and they even put it in the template for you. We need 22% of our monthly salary to go to our house. So equals, 22% as a decimal, 0.22 times, because you want to take 22% of your gross monthly salary for the high schooler. So they can put this much money towards their house. If I was working as a post-secondary, most likely doctorate degree professor, 0.22 times my monthly salary, that's how much I could put towards a mortgage and not be going over the 22% of my monthly salary. Notice they even tell you which formula we're using in the green here. We're using the present value formula. We learned this in class. If you're trying to figure out how much mortgage you can afford and you're basing it off of your monthly amount of cash that you have to put towards the house, we use the present value. It uses what do I have each month to figure out what should I try to borrow, okay? So equals PV. The percentage rate, you can read it in the problem, but it's also right here, 0.074. That's a APR, so we'll have to divide it by 12, comma, this is a 20-year mortgage, so 12 times 20, comma, and notice that's over here too, it tells you that. And then this is where you have to be careful. It's negative. Remember when we do all of our formulas in Excel for PV, FV, and PMT, and then we use this cell. You don't want to type this in, you want to use the cell. So click it and then close the parentheses and hit enter. That's because this is actually hiding a bunch of rounded values we don't see. There's a lot of decimal points it's not showing us, okay? So this would be how much the high school graduate should go for a house mortgage. If I use mine, equals PV, and then 0.074, we both got the same interest rate, divided by 12, 12 times 20, and then negative after my comma, and then this is the amount above there that the college graduate can put towards a house. So they can be shopping in a house range of 185,000. Do the same thing we did up above for absolute change and relative change. So equals new minus old equals absolute change divided by old. So notice, again, it's 121%, okay? Then we get into, so you'll have to answer all your questions about what you did. You explain what you did. You kind of write some statements to compare yourself to the high school graduate. And then we get to step 3, the retirement account. So 12% of the monthly income is going into retirement. So equals 0.12 times the monthly income again, which is up here on B10. And then equals 0.12 times the monthly income for the professor equals that. This is future value. So notice they're even giving that in the setup of the template. So equals FV, our interest rate for our retirement fund is 5.2%. So 0.52 divided by 12. So did it say it's an APR, which means annual. So comma 12, we're going to let this sit for 25 years. Oops, forgot my time. Comma, and then negative. Remember, it's always negative on these formulas. And then we put in that, how much did they put into their retirement each month or each deposit? Hit enter. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for the college graduate, equals FV, 0.052 divided by 12, comma 12 times 25 years, comma negative 808.40, because that we want that as a cell, not an actual type in. And then that gives us that. So that's how much the college graduate, if they did their 12% monthly, how much they would have in 25 years. Do the absolute change again. So equals new minus old. So this is how much actual dollar amount we would have more in our account. And as a percentage, absolute change divided by high school graduates base, it's still 121% more. Okay, so for number 4, this is probably the trickiest one to get set up correctly in the table. You're trying to do a guess and check. So we're using the same formulas from number 3. I don't want you to just copy paste them down here by doing copy paste though, because, or equals the cell, because it won't actually give you a formula you can adjust. So click on this. And if you highlight all of that, click Control C or copy, however you do that on your tablet or computer. And then you want to not have that highlighted and hit enter, because if you actually go click on a different cell, it'll actually change this answer too. We don't want that. Then I can click this and put that in there. So notice I do have a formula up here I can adjust now. Do the same thing for this one. I'm going to highlight all of that. Then I want to hit enter so it actually doesn't get rid of my formula. Click down here and paste it, okay? Or you can manually type the formula in again. That is fine as well. The reason we want this is we want to do guess and check and change the number of years until this person reaches 1.25 million. So I said, let's just double the number of years. Gets us close for this one. So I jumped to 50 years instead of 25. So maybe I'll just go up by 52 years. Nope, not quite there. Let's see, 53. 1.25, not quite. I'm at 1.23 million. So probably we'll be over that at 54 years. Now, notice we're over it, and that's fine, but we're not over it until we pass that 54 years. And this is the one place you're allowed to do a typed in entry without equals to, because this is just answering this guess and check part. So let's see how long it takes for my college professor. So I don't think it'll take as long. So let's try 40 years. Yeah, we're already over 1.25 million. So let's try 39 and make sure that it didn't hit 1.25 before then. Now, so at 39 years, we were at 1.22. So we weren't quite at 1.25. So I need to go back up to that 40 years. So notice it only took me 40 years to make a 1.25 million in my retirement account if I was making this much annually compared to this. So equals my new minus my old. I want to compare just the number of years, not the actual amount of account. We want to compare the number of years difference. And this will be the only time you'll see a different percentage. It's because it's everything else we had more, right? So we had higher values than the high school graduate because our salary was higher. In this scenario, it takes less years than the high school graduate. So we're seeing a decrease in percentage instead of an increase. Now that will be different for every single person. It depends on if your salary is higher than the high school graduates or not. So that's going to be referenced based on your data that you find on that website. So equals the absolute change divided by the old, which would be the high school graduate. So notice I was able to get to that 1.25 million in 14 years less than the high school student graduate, or it was like 26% less time to get to that, okay? So that one's probably the only one that's very different and kind of a little tricky. And then question 5, we're only going to focus on the college graduate here, not the high school graduate for this one. I'm just triple checking that. Yeah, we don't want to compare that to the high school student. I'm just double checking all the questions to make sure there's no reference to the high school student or graduate, I should say. Okay, so yeah, so let's look at this. So we're looking for a car cost after down payment of $10,000. Okay, so that's based on this price for this Raptor. So what are we going to pay? We're going to pay the down payment of $10,000. So we're going to do equals this amount minus 10,000, which I know you could do that in your head, but we want to use cell formulas for everything. So that is our amount that they're going to finance. Monthly payment, remember, is the PMT formula. So equals PMT 0.063 divided by 12, since they said it was an APR. It's going to be a 5-year loan. So that's 12 times a year for 5 years. And then negative, the amount we are financing is $76,600. And we hit enter. And this would be how much that monthly payment would be for that college graduate. Now that is a lot of money, okay? But that's a 5-year loan to pay off $76,600 at a pretty high interest rate, honestly. So when we look at this, and this will be different based on every single student because it's your college graduate's salary is going to determine this last part, okay? So we're going to take and say, what is this percentage of our gross monthly salary? So this payment amount divided by the gross monthly salary for your specific job, which is the college graduate, it tells you what percentage of it is. Now, we said that a mortgage, which is a house, is not supposed to be usually more than 20-something% of your monthly salary. So is it feasible or is it responsible to have a car payment that is 22% of your monthly salary? So the goal of this one is to kind of compare that to your monthly salary after we figure out what we're financing, what's the monthly payment. And then there's some questions about, is it feasible? Is it reasonable? Like, what could you do differently is what I would say. Maybe paying more down payment up front or something like that. So this should be enough. There's only one sheet on this project. You should not have sheet 2, 3, 4, or 5 or anything like that. It's all done on this one template. You answer your questions, and then there'll be the quiz that you take essentially when you submit your project, where you must upload your Excel file within that so that I can click on it and actually check that your formulas are typed in correctly where they're supposed to be. All right, I hope that was helpful.